take your leadership to the next level. It's time for the Foundational Missions Leadership Moment with Scott McClelland of fxmissions.
Hey there, Scott McClelland with your Leadership Moment on location in beautiful Playa Gigante, Nicaragua. We have the privilege today to be joined by a friend of many years, Greg Millsaps. He's going to, reflect. He's going to give us some reflections about leadership maybe we haven't thought about. Greg, tell us a little bit about, where you're at, what you're doing, and just give us a little bit of perspective about yourself as a friend of Scott McClelland.
All right. Thank you, Scott, for the interview. Yes, my name's Greg Millsaps. I am an expat, American expat who lives in Mexico. I help run a coffee shop there in northern Mexico, just outside of Monterrey, called El Búho. It's a faith-based coffee shop in a climbing community there in Potrero Chico. So I've been there 10 years.
Wow, 10 years in Mexico. What was that quote from the guy who said euthanasia?
Yeah, to be a gringo in Mexico is euthanasia. That was Ambrose Bierce.
Sounded like a guy who
ironically disappeared and was never found again in Mexico.
In Mexico.
That's right.
Self-fulfilling prophecy there, it sounds like. Well, thanks for taking a few minutes with us, man. We have done this leadership podcast, kind of around the world on location. So thanks again for taking a few minutes. Beautiful context here. We're working on the subject of leadership as we're heading into leadership intensive for young leaders in the north part of the country in the next couple of days. As you think about the subject of leadership, maybe about what you're going to share here, or about what you're, just some reflections of things that maybe came to you by difficulty, but you've got them refined and processed them down to a point of understanding. What comes to mind?
Well, in my context, leadership is cross-cultural.
Okay.
As I said, I'm an American expat in Mexico, and in the climbing area, we have climbers coming from all over the world, from Europe, South America, Asia, Middle East, everywhere.
Wow.
So we have a very interesting and unique context there.
Yeah.
And so what I've learned in leadership is the old Marine Corps maxim. Is improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Oh, yes.
And so those three really follow, beginning with improvise. When you're in a setting that's foreign, even though I'm an expat, I've lived there for 10 years, still I struggle with being a foreigner in that country.
Yes.
And so I've learned I've got to improvise. My personality, I like to have everything. I like to have my ducks in a row. I like to have everything organized, but it's not always the case.
Yeah.
And so, sure, if we to run the nonprofit coffee shop that we run requires a lot of improvisation. So we have to improvise quite a bit, and we don't always have what we need, what's perfect for the moment. But through that shuffling around and through improvising, we make it work, and that's what's important. And so the second part of that is the adapt. You have to learn to adapt. And that's why there's another phrase I like to use. You've heard it from me 1,000 times. Go ahead and say it.
Semper Gumby?
Semper Gumby.
I was thinking that, man. Seriously.
Semper Gumby. That's the phrase that I use, which if I have to break that down, for our listeners who don't know who Gumby is, he was a character
claymation or something.
Yeah, claymation, a character in a children's show back in the day.
Yeah.
And so Semper Gumby means basically always be flexible, and that's what adaptation means. You have to adapt to your circumstances. You have to adapt to your environment, and certainly in a cross-cultural context that I'm in, we do a lot of that adaptation. And so even in language, sometimes we had to work to figure out, do we do our menu in English or Spanish, for example? So
right. Yeah.
We had to adapt to our circumstances. And of course, the third thing is overcome. And certainly for me, in my context, overcoming means making it all work. Overcoming our obstacles. We certainly have had a variety of obstacles, as everyone does, running a small business. Then we have the nonprofit side where we're trying to help build a school and supply that school and build up a library in another school. And so overcoming means meeting our goals with excellence, having the best coffee in the coffee shop, providing the best baked goods that we can find and create, that with a good atmosphere there. But also on the mission side of what we're doing too is overcoming the barriers that we faced in getting the school up and ready. It's a school in an impoverished area, and that's brought a lot of challenges too. So overcoming is meeting those goals that we placed in front of us. And that's so improvise, adapt, and overcome. And that's not original with me. That comes from the United States Marine Corps. So.
All right. Well, awesome. This is Scott McClelland with your leadership moment. If you need to contact me or us, please do so at fxmissions.com. Until next time, have a good one.